Hello and welcome to Happy Queer Adults.
You probably know our guest today from her incredible work over the last decade as a creator and director on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, or even Tumblr, as Now This Is Living. Shannon Beveridge has made it her mission to create the content she wished existed as a queer kid and has spent her career directing and producing videos that positively represent the LGBTQIA+ community. Shannon balances creating her own content with directing and producing. She's directed narrative shorts, music videos for artists like Solita, Joya Ladakun, Allison Stoner, and Fletcher, and recently directed her first short film, which I cannot wait to see. In our interview with Shannon, we dug into how she got started and developed her career as a content creator, the lengths she went to meet up with internet friends 10 years ago, how her and her ex were almost on a reality TV show, and a whole lot more. Okay, let's play it. Cool. Well, do you want to start with just telling us your name, pronouns, who you are, how you're doing today?
I would love to. I'm watching my dad try to park on my hill and it's insane. Anyway, okay. Hi, my name's Shannon Beveridge. I use she, her pronouns. I am a content creator and I have been for like 10 years almost. And when I say content creator, I mean, I don't know. I make YouTube videos, short films, I take pictures, I have TikTok, YouTube shorts, I have Instagram, any kind of content. I've tried to create it, so that's me, and most of it is queer.
Can you tell us like the Shannon Beveridge post stuff online origin story?
I can. So I am from Dallas, Texas, actually Carrollton, Texas, so the suburbs of Dallas. And when I was in high school, I had like a secret relationship with a girl that sent me into like a crazy like spiral of like, am I gay? I can't be gay. You're not allowed to be gay. And so to not be gay, I went to school in Oklahoma and I joined a sorority because sororities make you straight, except that they don't, apparently. So then I'm in Oklahoma now realizing like, what the hell did I just do to myself? Now I'm in the most conservative area ever. And I'm like, what the hell am I going to do now that I'm here and gay and I can't talk to anyone? So I went online. So the first thing that ever happened is I watched a YouTube video of this like lesbian who was talking about how all these lesbians were on Tumblr. And I'd never even heard of Tumblr. So I'm like, what's Tumblr? Log in, create an account, and then just slowly started like posting, following all these like queer girls and just queer people. And I didn't know that like that many of us even existed, and then slowly started to share my own story. And then just like I guess it's like an interesting story, a lesbian in the sorority and being closeted, so people were like, what's going to happen to this girl? So I started getting some followers, and then as I got followers, people would be like asking me questions and stuff, and I was like realizing I'm getting the same questions like very consistently. How can I just like create a thing so that anyone who like wants to know, like basically an FAQ, but I didn't want to write it out, so I made a YouTube video. I was like frequently asked questions, and basically the rest is history. It just like kind of took off on its own. It was like a very organic thing that I was using as a way to connect to people because I felt really lonely. And flash forward 10 years, it just like I just keep trying to do the same thing, I guess. Like, and I don't know. I think for me, my social platform is all a way to create content that I didn't have. So it's like, I really think of it as kind of like something for my younger self. And yeah, that's it.
Where did you find the confidence to just start posting the things that you were keeping secret in your like day-to-day life online?
Well, first of all, there was no confidence. Just let's keep that in our minds. I was not confident about anything at all. I just was so lonely. Like I just was so lonely, and seeing that these people like existed, I was desperate to become like connected to them in some way. And I think I just was watching and seeing like Tumblr was very much like a community back then. Like it was a lot of like people were going on I can never remember what this thing was called, but basically it's like Zoom or Skype that like 10 people could be on. And I was like seeing like, okay, who's included in that? Like who are the people who are like getting to like be on camera and talking, because there's also like a chat room at the same time, and I would be like one of the people in the chat room, but I really wanted to be like talking to people, and I'm like, how are these people like, you know, getting to be on the video? And I noticed it's because they were sharing like personal information about themselves, and like I wanted that too. So I was like, okay, I guess if I am a little bit more open and I'm talking and sharing myself, then people might let me like be a part of like the friend group. That's how I saw it at first. And then yeah, it really it was a different time of the internet as well. So like you felt like you had like a safe pocket that like no one was going to find you. Like I wasn't posting on Tumblr thinking even for a second that someone might find me from like my school, because like no one in my school used Tumblr. So I was like, I'm safe on here. And I was really like conscious of, I only told people like, my name's Shannon, I go to school in the South, and I'm in a sorority. I wouldn't even say like what sorority I was in. I wouldn't say what state the school was in. Like I was like very like trying to be incognito. Yeah. So I think it was literally just like a desperation to connect. Like I was really lonesome. I was like borderline probably suicidal feeling, like never like any actions in that way, but a lot of like thinking in that way. And I think it was just like, if I don't, like what's going to happen to me? Like I desperately need this. Like I need someone to talk to. So that's, yeah, it's definitely like a place of desperation. It wasn't like, I'm so confident. Like I want people to look at me and talk to me and think about me. Like I just like, someone just, I could use a pen pal.
So it's amazing that you turned that sort of feeling of isolation and loneliness into something that like so many other people have connected with. And like, I think your content has helped a lot of people that you made out of that kind of darker space. So kind of beautiful.
Absolutely. And I think it's also amazing. It sounds like very early on, the queer community showed up for you in a way.
For sure.
Which I think is really amazing. I think a lot of people have a hard time finding their place in the queer community and getting that reciprocal relationship back. But I love that it sounds like pretty early on, it was very reciprocal for you.
Yeah, I think it's because it was all the same. Like the people that were on Tumblr, like I'm sure there were some people that were more confident or like trying to get followers, but like the internet was just different. Like I don't even think Instagram really, if it existed, it was like not what it is now. It was like when we were all like using the fucking like borders and like the filters right on Instagram, and you were posting like your food or a drink you had, you know, it was like not like there was no aspiration for followers. So like it was way more like genuine connection and just like, yeah. But I always say too, it's like, it was funny for me because as I was posting, I would get DMs from people and like messages. They're actually asks on Tumblr, but I was getting like asks on Tumblr of people being like, oh, like you gave me the confidence to come out. And at the time I would be like, I was 18, 19, and I was only out to my mom and my dad and my sister. And so it was like the queer community like helped me come out, and the whole time kept thanking me for coming out. And I was like, I'm not even out. Like it was interesting. It was like, yeah, I have a deep connection to the queer community. I'm so grateful. Like they like genuinely like saved my life. So crazy.
What was that process like going from being queer online and not out in public to kind of connecting those two worlds?
Yeah, it was really weird because it kind of, I joke that I was like a lesbian Hannah Montana because I was out online and I was completely closeted in real life. Even when I was out in real life, like there was a lot of me that was not out. Like maybe my best friend knew in Oklahoma, but like none of my other friends knew. So it was like, it was constantly like this double life kind of feeling. And I think genuinely it took me years to ever like to connect that. Like it stayed that way for like well into my first long-term relationship, even, where I felt like a lot of disconnection between myself, you know. And like I kind of used the internet almost as like a crutch. Like I hate to say that, but like it was the place where I felt 100% me. And so like for years I was like online so much, and I think that might even be and contribute to like some of the burnout that I've had now in my like later adult life. Sound like I'm 75, but because like I finally do feel confident in real life. So like the internet, I don't necessarily need the affirmation I needed from it for so long. Like it was the place where I got like a lot of affirmation, a lot of people being like, it's so cool that you're gay, and like we love that you're gay and you helped me be gay. And like I was like still needed that to be able to feel good about myself and feel good about being gay. And now finally, like, I mean, it took a long fucking time. I think it took all the way through my first relationship even, and then going through that first breakup, because I'd never been single and gay either, which is a very big part of like being comfortable with yourself. I think not being single, but standing alone a little bit. Yeah, I don't know. I think I finally did it, but I think it took a long time.
As someone who sort of grew up as a queer adult in the public eye, what are some of the biggest things that you've learned along the way?
I think what I've learned so much because of that is just how special the queer community is, like how much we show up for each other in general, like in that capacity. It's interesting because I am blessed with like a great family, like a real family. My mom, my dad, my sister, like all very like supportive of me, and like I don't have any issue in that regard. But you know, so many queer people talk about like chosen family, and I've never felt like I needed a chosen family, but I've always just had the privilege of having two. Like I have my family and I have my chosen family, but I didn't even have to choose them. I don't know how to explain it. Like being online and getting to be like kind of behind the doors of like with all these like queer creators, like going to the VidCons and like all that stuff, you realize like how I'm trying not to sound, it's like gonna sound douchey, I feel like, but like how like important your representation is, like how important and how much we've helped people because we just did nothing. We didn't even have to do anything crazy. We just put our faces out there, you know?
Absolutely. I mean, I and this is just my interpretation of what you're saying, is that being able to be yourself and having somebody else resonate with that is a huge part of what it is to be out there, to be out of the closet, to be representation for the queer community. I think that's amazing.
You said it so much better. Let's just cut everything I said, cut straight to Caitlyn. Thank you. That's what I meant.
Have you seen any dark sides? Like, I know early on when you were on Tumblr, you were probably a little bit more insular because you really had to search for those communities. But have you seen the dark side of the internet come for you as well?
For sure. I mean, I think being a part of the internet when, like I said, it was different then when I started. Like there wasn't an influencer. The influencer didn't exist in the way that we do now. That's when things got weird and different because it took away a lot of the like genuine, authentic, like I'm here just to be here. And like I'm not saying that it didn't, like the rise of the influencer didn't ruin the internet for me personally, but it did create this like dark undertone of like not necessarily knowing, like when I was on, I think it was called Tiny Chat. When I was on Tiny Chat talking to like 10 random lesbians across America, right? Like we all knew we were just there because we wanted to talk to each other. We just like, that's what it was. It was just like, I don't have anyone like you in my life and I get to talk to you here. Then years go by and you're like, do you want to be my friend because you like me? Or do you want to be my friend because I hate the word social climb, but you know, that kind of fear of like, what are you in this for? You know, it took away a lot of just like the actual community feeling of it. That's the darkest part of it, I think, for sure. And money. I mean, I think money ruins everything. Like, yeah, we were not making any money. No one cared. It wasn't like, oh, we're contractually have to be on Tiny Chat at 10 p.m. It was like, oh my God, I need to finish studying for my classes so that I can be the first 10 people on the tiny chat so I get to be on it. Like it was just for fun. Like it was like just such a nice time to be online back then.
Do you think that forming so many connections through tiny chat early on and then through the internet later on, do you think that impacted how you connect with people generally at all?
I don't know how it affected me.
Does it make you more open to, I don't want to say virtual relationships, but like virtual friendships, things like that, than other people might be?
Yes, definitely, for sure. I feel I was definitely a part of a wave of people before, when like the internet was still like, don't talk to strangers, you know, like it was like, I couldn't tell my parents I had friends in Canada. They were like, they're going to kill you, you know, that was like still the vibe then. So I was definitely like early on to like being like besties online, and to the point where when my first like internet friend I ever met was my friend Vanessa, who is from Canada. She's from Toronto. And we had to lie about how we knew each other. And we met up in the sketchiest way. This is a crazy story, but we are broke. Neither of us have any money. We're in college. And I was staying with my sister in New York for a summer. And I would think I was 20. And I broke my phone the first week I was in New York. And I was staying there for like a month and a half. And I never got another phone. For a whole month and a half, I didn't have a phone, which was hard for someone who was addicted to Tumblr, honestly, addicted. So I think I stayed inside most of the time to like be on my computer talking to people. But my friend Vanessa was going to a soccer game in New Jersey with her like Argentine family. It was like an Argentina game. And they drove a little like RV trailer thing there. I had no phone. And we were like, we'll link up and I'll go to Canada with you. Idiot 20-year-olds thinking that this is a great idea, which it did turn out fine in the end. But I have to take a taxi. There's no Uber, yeah. So I have to take a taxi. No phone, no money. I had like $50 left to my name, and I didn't know that when you take a taxi from New York and you go over the bridge into Jersey, you have to pay that toll, which I think is like so much money. So I was like, oh, fuck, like I'm literally going to spend all my money on this one cab ride. And she tells me to meet her at a truck stop. And the truck stop, because they're in this RV, so they could park there overnight, right? The truck stop is some kind of gas station. So let's say it's a Shell, right? So I tell the cab driver, I'm going to take me to the Shell, like, rest stop. He takes me to a Shell gas station. Just a gas station. He's like, okay. And I'm like, what the hell? I'm calling her on payphones, trying to figure out how to get her. There's a creepy guy working at the gas station who's like offering me beers from his mini fridge behind it. And I'm like, like, I don't know what's going on. Long story short, luckiest thing ever happened to me. This really sweet man who used to be a truck driver is a private driver. The Shell guy calls him for me. So he picks me up and I'm like, I don't know where I'm trying to go, but my friend is at like, I don't have a phone. I'm trying to meet my friend. She's in an RV. This guy could have been like a crazy guy. Nicest guy. He drives me all around New Jersey. I was probably in his car for like an hour. He charges me no money and he gets me to my friend. And then I get to her RV. No one knows who I am. They're like, who is this girl? And it's like her aunt and uncle. And I'm like, I'm Vanessa's friend. And they're like, from where? I'm like, from, look at Vanessa. She's like, college. We're like, okay, we're college friends. And yeah, so that's the time of the internet we were friends in, like where you had to lie about how you knew someone because no one would have trusted that you met someone online. That was a really long-winded story. Sorry about that.
No. That story made me 100% sure that we will be microchipping our child. The fact that you're alive right now is still baffling to me.
Just like little Shannon at a fucking
Can you drop
Shell?
me off at a truck stop, please?
He's like, here's a gas station. I'm like, this just cannot be correct. But I'm also I cannot stand up for myself. So I was like, okay, thank you. Bye. Like, okay, I'm gonna die here. And I really could have. It could have been bad.
The fact that you didn't have your phone was oh my god.
No, and I had Vanessa's number like written on my arm here, so I could call her from the payphone. And I had to ask the guy for quarters because I had none. So it was like, and imagine today, like payphones don't even exist.
No, you would have had to borrow the Shell guy's cell phone, 100%. Yeah.
But look, I'm alive and well. He's still my best friend. So
okay, so I think that story was like a perfect example of how queer people trust each other and okay, so like there's obviously a lot of queer people, especially lesbians, that are in long distance relationships that meet online. There are like a lot of queer communities that exist on the internet that feel like really safe spaces. Like what I don't know, what is that? Like what do you think about the queer community? Do we just like inherently trust that it feels that's like a safe connection, safe space?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely do that. And I don't know, I think it's because sadly, if you're not in like an LA, DC, New York, I mean, it's growing and so much better now, right? So there's like big communities in Dallas even now. Even in Dallas, where there is a huge queer community, there's not a lot of like, it's not huge. Like huge is like not that big, right? So to find someone who is a lesbian and their favorite show is South of Nowhere and their favorite artist is Haley Kiyoko and their favorite thing is this, it's like you might not be able to find that person, but online you can 100% find that person. And it's like I think we're deprived so much of like, and it's changing now too, but like even like early childhood like friendship kind of thing where you get to talk about everything,
Yeah.
we don't get that. So I think the internet creates this space where you can find someone who is like you, that most straight people can find in any community. I mean, not all. If you have a very niche hobby or like love of some specific anime, even straight people look online for that, right? But like queer people in general are deprived of that for even like the most normal of things. Like even the US national women's soccer team has such a big like online queer fandom friend group situation. So yeah, I think we're just all want to connect to each other and connect to people who are actually really like they see themselves in. And unfortunately in real life that can be a struggle, especially if you do have like a niche hobby, even as a queer person, like that already like narrows it down a lot. But yeah, and we just trust each other because we're like, I don't care, you could be weird, I have friends from the internet that like today I'm like, we probably would not be friends at all if I met you in real life. Like today at a bar, we would not like bond with each other probably because we're not the same. But back then, all I cared about, I'm like, you're a lesbian, I'm a lesbian, we're best friends. And now I'm like, you're family to me. So like, there's a lot of them. I'm like, we might not like each other if we met each other today, but I don't care. Like, I grew up with you now. So we're like basically childhood friends. We have that like high school bond where you're like, even though we didn't go to high school with each other.
What have been some of your like favorite memories along the way as a queer content creator?
I think like at first, like so much of, I think the milestones were a big thing for me. Like when I started, it's like, oh, I had 10,000 Tumblr followers. Like I just remember being like, that's so crazy. Like I remember I used to be really like, talk about that too. When I hit like 50,000 YouTube subscribers, I would like post and be like, oh my God, I can't believe I have 50,000 YouTube subscribers. And I can't remember what milestone it was, but one of them, someone messaged me and was like, that's more people than fit in like the Dallas Cowboys stadium or something like that. And like when someone put an actual like quantifiable connection to that to me, I remember being like a little bit horrified, first of all, because I'm like, that's so terrifying. But also like I was like, that's so cool. So at first it was milestones. And then I think just the opportunities it's brought me. Like I never thought it would be what it is now. Like I never would have thought like I mean, literally you couldn't think that it would happen. Like I didn't think, oh, if I post a YouTube video, then I could move to LA. And if I moved to LA, then I could become a director of a short film. Like none of that was even in my like scope. When I graduated college, I was still applying to like marketing startup jobs, thinking like, I can't wait. Like maybe I'll move to New York and I'll work at this like startup company. And then I was like, wait a second, I'm making money. I can keep doing this. That's crazy. I think like I was also a fan of YouTube after I got on YouTube. So like when I went to like my first VidCon and I'm like standing next to like Grace Held, is that her last name, Helbig?
I think so.
Grace, you know, and Hannah Hart, and I'm like, we're like right here with each other. That's how am I in this room? Like so cool. And now that all that kind of stuff kind of like faded away, right? But it was really cool at first because I'm just a simple girl from Carrollton, Texas. Like this wasn't meant to be for me. And yeah, that's the coolest part.
What are some of your favorite pieces of content that you've gotten a chance to create?
My favorite thing I've ever made is the video "A Letter to You" that I made for in Canada. They created a film festival for YouTubers, so they like it was only YouTubers were like contributing content to them, and so it was like no barrier to entry. They just wanted you to like make something and kind of like make an elevated version of it. It was really cool. They put a lot of like money behind it in that like we were screening our YouTube videos like on like in a movie theater, and it was really this cool experience. And I didn't know what to make, and I never made any higher produced content at that point. Like I was still, you know, using books for my like tripod. I had a tripod, so sometimes it would be my tripod, but sometimes it was nothing. And so I got the opportunity to make something kind of like more thought out. And then that video, it's crazy because like it changed my life, and I think it has 3 million views. So that's really nothing in this like world of virality. Like it didn't really go viral or anything, but that was the coolest thing for me, like best content I ever made, because it gave me insight into the fact that I have the ability to make more than just a YouTube video, even though I, of anyone, know the importance of just a YouTube video. Like a YouTube video is everything. But that was like my first step into like actually feeling like I could be a director or like anything like that. And then the next thing after that would probably be the Allison Stoner music video I did, because I grew up thinking I had such a crush on Allison Stoner, where she was like on Mike's Super Short Show, and she was like Cheaper by the Dozen with her little hat on backwards. I'm like, that's me. Like I wasn't like, oh, that's a little lesbian, but I was like, that's me. I love her. And then I got the opportunity to make that music video for her, and I was like, and she shaved her head in it, which was crazy and like cool. And it was the first thing I ever really directed after the Letter to You. So those two things stick out in my head as like just like felt like I was opening the door into like something that maybe would be longer lasting than a YouTube channel, I guess.
So has YouTube ever led to like opportunities outside of YouTube in sort of mainstream media?
I tried out to be on Amazing Race. Did I ever tell you that?
No.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so in like 2000, oh God, 15, I think we got reached out by The Amazing Race, like a producer for them, and they were like, we're doing an internet season of The Amazing Race, and we want you guys to like send a tape. So we filmed the whole tape. I have the tape somewhere. It's so cringy. So we film an audition tape, and they're like, cool, like the producers love you, like we're gonna bring you in. So it's the weirdest fucking thing. You walk in, I probably have an NDA somewhere, but I don't give a, what are they gonna do? You walk in and you do like a bunch of personality tests, like right away, and you're in this room with everyone else who's gonna be on the show, who could be on the show. So there's like probably like, I don't know, like 40 people in there. Mm-hmm. And you do all these personality tests, you fill them in, you turn them in, and then they give you this like whole spiel. And they're like, you're staying at this hotel, you guys are going to be here for like the next 3 days. You are not allowed to talk to any of the other teams, not at all. Like, don't speak to them, but you will have dinner at the same time. You'll have like lunch at the same time. You will be often in the same rooms with them, but don't talk to each other. And then they're like, but we encourage you to watch each other, evaluate each other, check each other out, try to figure out like, what's your competition? Who's going to be this kind of team? Who's going to be that kind of team? Like this whole like psychological warfare that you're like, it just doesn't feel that deep, you know? Like, what am I going to tell about someone by how they eat their steak? Like, it was just so stupid, but like interesting. It was like funny. Obviously, we didn't know. I've never been like in any kind of production thing like that, so it was fun. But then they like do like these interviews with you, and there's a producer or someone like asking these questions. And I think we answered questions after the personality test, and the question would be like, if the team in front of you got lost, would you A, give them directions, B, lead them in the wrong direction, or C, just not talk to them and like go on your own way? And so me and my ex like answered all these questions, and we're both like kind of similarly like nice, kind of like, you know, we're like, we probably, you know, we'd probably give them the directions because then maybe they would help us later on, right? And that was like our excuse for all our questions. So then they bring the questions out and they're asking the questions. And this lady's like, okay, so for this question, it was, if the team in front of you dropped their wallet and their money fell, would you take the money? Would you give it back to them, or would you not say anything? They're all very like similar kind of like dynamic questions. And we were like, we would give it back to them. And this lady's like, why? And we're like, oh, like, you know, our idea would be like, if we win, we want to win fairly, and like we think we're both like really intelligent, like we could do a good job, we're good with direction, so like why not like make sure we won in the best way? And she was like, if someone in front of me dropped their wallet, I would pick that money up and I would eat it. We were like,
what?
Yes. And we were like, okay, like we wouldn't. But she was trying to get us to be like, she wanted us to say something like that, or she like even at least wanted us to be like, we wouldn't give it back, like something like they were trying to like pull. It was very clear even already then that they were trying to typecast people, like trying to get their, here's our villain, here's our this, here's the whatever. And in preparation for going on the show, we had already watched seasons of the show, but we watched every season of the show because we were like, if we get it, we want to know everything that they do, like whatever. And we had both talked about it, and we're like, they always make the lesbians mean. They're mean. They're like, every season up before that where there was a lesbian couple, they were like ruthless. They would eat the money. But it was just very this like lesbian stereotype cast. Yeah. And there was only ever one gay couple in every season. If there was a gay couple, there's only one. And we got there, and the first person we saw when we got there was Tyler Oakley. And at the time, he had millions of subscribers. We had like 400,000 subscribers. We looked at each other, we're like, they're not going to put us on a show, like, because they're going to put one gay team on, and it's going to be Tyler and his friend. And we were right, and we didn't get on the show. And I think that they like were hoping that they could get us to be this like ruthless, dynamic team of like, I'm like, look at us. We're like girl next door lesbian couple. Like, what are you trying to do? Like, it's not going to happen. Like, why let us be the first nice lesbian team? But yeah, we didn't get it. But it was a really fun experience. Hopefully they don't come for me with my NDA, but
well, at least you didn't get force fed any money. That could have been a real downer.
Eating money does not sound fun.
That woman was so intense. It was hilarious. Like, I wish I was older. Like, I wish it happened like today, so I could have like understood more about like what was going on. But we were just such like dumb, young, just moved to LA, didn't like understand. You know, we were not playing the game. We were just like, oh my gosh, we'd be on Amazing Race, maybe. How fun! Like, another funny side note is we had come up with a like word that would be our word we would say to each other if we felt like we were like getting too angry with each other and like we wanted to like calm down so we didn't give ourselves like a bad reputation. I think it was like pineapple or something stupid like that. We're like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. Like, we were like so terrified that going on the show was gonna like, that they would try to picture us in like a way that we weren't, and that we would like get in tips and stuff. And we were like, we're gonna control our image on the show, as if we would have been able to. And like, we were like, pineapple. What are you doing? Anyway, that's my fun little story.
That's hilarious.
I think you're ahead of your time, because Caitlyn and I watch a lot of reality TV, and to this day, like our favorite reality, I'm speaking for you, but I think I'm right. Our favorite reality TV show winner is her name Natalie?
Yeah.
Natalie from Survivor. And her tactic, which threw everyone off, was she would give away all of her rewards to other people. And she would develop these really close relationships with like people because she would constantly give away her rewards to not her closest friends, but to like
The other people.
The other people. And
she was also like very athletically inclined. So she was winning things constantly.
All the time. And she, like at the very end, like, I guess this is not something you would do, but like at the very end, she like totally backstabs completely unexpectedly, like her biggest competition and closest friend. And it was like, it's the best reality television I still have ever seen, but she was so nice the whole time. And then at the very end, she just like won the show by being extraordinarily
like Survivor is so hard. I feel like I would never be able to do it.
Never. I was
so
I wouldn't sign up for it in all honesty. No, not my cup of tea.
I get bitten up. I'd be like, no.
Just to be out, I don't even want to be outside that long. That alone is a no for me. Like, it's not even like, I would love to do the competitions. I would love to do this, that, and the other, but I don't want to sleep outside. That's disgusting. And I'm not an outdoorsy girl.
I don't know about you, but I was sent to a lot of like Christian adventure camps as a child, and we would camp outside for weeks on end. So I feel like I have done my time camping and I don't need to be outside anymore. I'm good.
I went to Bonnaroo one too many times, and that alone, I got my fill. Because I would go to Christian camps. No, if I would go to Christian away camps, but they would be like, we'd have a cabin, you know? So it was a little bit, I never roughed it like I did at Bonnaroo. And then I did Bonnaroo and I was like, I hate being outside. I hate being hot. Like, I am not a granola lesbian at all. I'm like, put me inside with a little AC, a nice little true crime documentary. I'm going to have a great day.
What would you say your dream project is right now?
That's a great question. I don't know. I'm a very go with the flow type of person. So I feel like so much of everything I've ever done has like kind of like been organic. And I don't mean that in a like, I didn't work hard and it all just like fell in my lap. It just more like I'm open to all experiences and I'm like excited when I get an opportunity to do anything. So I guess I would say a feature film would be my dream project, but I also have imposter syndrome. So I would be like, I'm not ready to do that. But I'm my own worst enemy. But yeah, I think eventually that would be my dream, is to do something like that. Or maybe even like a TV series. I feel like TV series connect so well with queer audiences. We just love them. Me talking about myself as well. So maybe even before a feature, a TV series is kind of like, would be a dream come true. I always dreamed of making something kind of around that Tumblr day kind of thing, and like recreating almost in like an episodic kind of like, you know, you're kind of going through and getting to see, oh, Shannon from Texas and Vanessa from Toronto and Carol from Temecula, and like just getting like snippets into that and seeing that weirdness of like, some of these people shouldn't be friends. Like, they don't understand each other. They wouldn't want to hang out. But like, yeah, I think there's something so cool about that. And we're almost getting to the time now where it's like old enough that it's nostalgic, which I think everyone also loves nostalgia. So yeah, that is something I've always wanted to work on.
That'd be really cool.
I would love to watch that. It would be such a stark contrast from like some of the stuff that's out now with like Crush, where it's like this almost queer euphoria fantasy in the future, and then you got the Tumblr early beginnings. I like it.
Yeah, so stay tuned. It could happen.
I'm looking forward to it. We'll be watching.
Oh, for sure.
Wait, can I circle back, because I forgot I'm allowed to ask a question?
Yeah.
Do either of you guys have like internet friends from early days of coming out or anything?
No, I have never had much of any presence on the internet at all. I was telling Lauren earlier today that I primarily used YouTube to watch like school videos and stuff. I was a huge nerd, so I don't, but
Yeah, and I was really like scared of, which is why I said confidence in the beginning when we were talking, because I was really nervous that um like I would leave like someone would figure out that I was like posting online or meeting people online or things like that. Like I remember when I was in my like early 20s and like knew I was a lesbian, but like hadn't really like admitted it to anyone yet. I was like using incognito mode, which I had just figured out was a thing on like to read like whatever the queer like blog or whatever I was reading at the time. And so no, I feel like I was really closed off to it until like honestly like after we came out and I had started like dating and like meeting people that like on the internet that way. Yeah, I feel like queer dating apps was the first time I was really meeting people on the internet. And then I guess like there was like the second era for me, which was like the pandemic, like even meeting like you and like other people I connected with like over the pandemic who I haven't really met in person yet. I feel like there's a lot of like TikTokers and like things like that I've like just talked to because we have a lot of similar stuff and you just end up like connecting that way. So I feel like I have more experience that recently than like at the beginning of my like 20s or in college or anything like that.
That's wild. We have like the opposite story. And Caitlyn and I don't have any of the same story.
Well, when I first got exposed to the internet, I mean, it was still a pretty weird place. And we also had like a family computer. So if I was meeting people online, it would have been very quickly apparent to my parents that I was meeting people online.
Same, exactly. It wasn't until like I was in college when I like really could have because I had a laptop. But even then I like always had a roommate and like I don't know, it just always felt like I didn't have like a personal safe space to like do that. My dad also like put a tracker on my computer when I was like in elementary school that would send him a screenshot of my computer whenever I said a curse word on it. So if I said like shit to one of my friends, it would literally take a picture of the entire screen and then send it to my dad's email address. And I think like that like ruined me. Like I was so afraid. And he like took it off once I like threw a fit about it. And my mom was like, that's a huge invasion of her privacy, whatever. It didn't exist after that point, but I did not trust computers.
You were traumatized. That's like your parent like reading your journal and then you're like, okay, well, I'll never journal again. Obviously, it's not a safe place for me. Yeah, that is crazy. It is weird. Like it's weird because you're like, I had a roommate and I'm like, some of my most prime Tumblr days, like when I was doing my most tumbling, I was living in a sorority house with 100 girls. 100 girls. That's how many roommates I had. I genuinely think it was just such pure desperation. I was like, I don't even care. Like I was like, I cared. Like I also really cared. Like I did not want anyone to know. But it was like, I can't care enough to not do it, basically. And it did become like this, like almost like addiction to me, where it was like, if I didn't have that like fill of like talking to other people like me, like I don't know, I was like I would be depressed. So it was like this is like my dopamine is like getting to like just log into my computer. And definitely some of my friends were like catching on to some weirdness. They're like, who does Shannon talk to online all the time? And I was just like, I don't even know. I think I just like created this like mysterious kind of like thing about myself. So everyone was just like, I don't know, like just kind of does what she wants to do. And I was like, yeah, do what I want to do. And it'd always be like, oh, Shannon's like such a Cali girl. I'm like, I'm from Dallas. Like, what are y'all talking about? And I was talking about this the other night at a dinner party, but I used to have like girls come up to me from my sorority and not even from my sorority, from other sororities, be like, Shannon, like, I don't get it. Like, so-and-so has such a big crush on you. And like, this guy likes you. And like, how do you like, what are you doing? Like, how are you getting them to like you? And I'm like, just don't care about them. They'll like you. And they're like, how do you do that? I'm like, because I'm obviously gay, y'all. Come on. I'm like, I wasn't even like really that hard having to like hide it, because people in Oklahoma, and like so much of Oklahoma is Texas. That school is like a huge feeder school from Texas. So I think mostly Texas, Oklahoma kids, just completely oblivious to the idea that any girl who could have a boyfriend wouldn't want a boyfriend, essentially, is like what it was. They're like, it was crazy. When I came out, I'm like, I can't believe, like, some of the people were like, what? I'm like, what? Obviously. Anyway.
Has anyone else from your sorority come out? Because 100
No.
girls, I mean, that's wild.
No, and there was more than 100. There's about 200 of us, maybe a little bit more. And it was just 100 lived in. And I lived in for 2 years, which is, you don't have to do that. And I'm like, I don't know why I did that, but I did it because all my friends did it. But a huge part of me not wanting to come out sooner was that I was living in, because we had like a house mom. Do you guys know much about sororities? I don't know.
Just what I've seen on TV.
Yeah.
Okay, so like all the sorority houses and fraternity houses have a house mom, and they're mostly like widow women, the widower. What is it? I don't know. Their partners have passed, and so they live in Norman, and they get offered this opportunity to be the house mom, and all they do is they just live there. They like have a little apartment in the house, and they really just like live there. And it must be for some kind of law, I guess, to have. I don't know how it's not a brothel, because it should be. But anyway, we had a house mom, and then we had this like house manager, and the house manager had 2 daughters who lived in the house too. And she was very conservative, and it wasn't even just her, it was so many of them. But I was like convinced that if they found out I was gay, they would not let me live in the house anymore. Like, I would get kicked out of the house. Like, I feel like they probably would have not kicked me out of the sorority out of like fear of, lawsuits and stuff. But we had like shared like bathrooms and stuff like that. But I was just like, I just cannot live with the idea of them like finding out, outing me, and then kicking me out because I'm like have to shower in the same room as like other girls. So that like really hindered my coming out process too, because I think I was like a little bit more ready but I couldn't. So I only came out to like 2 or 3 people before I finally moved into like a house. Not my senior year, I lived like with just like 5 friends, and then I just was telling everyone. I would get drunk and be like, "Hey, Bo," I'm like, "I've only talked to you 1 time, but me, get." I think I was like ready for it to just not be in my hands anymore. It became too much like stress.
When I came out, I just like told everybody the same week, just like did not want it to be a secret at all. So I it was 1 week of just, I came out to every person I think I had ever met in my life.
Just knocked him down. Good job. It's hard to do.
It was exhausting, but I wanted it to just be done. I wanted like everyone to know. So yeah, that was the way I approached it. It's a little aggressive, but
like rip the Band-Aid. What about you, Caitlyn?
I came out to people that meant very little to me in my life first. So like peripheral friends, people that I like had become close with very recently, because I felt like if I ever wanted to take it back or go back into the closet, it would be very easy for me to just disassociate with them and find myself back in the closet. So I did that for a couple of months, and it was kind of great. I came out to this like group of guys that I had recently met, and we would just go to bars, and it was a lovely time. And then I told my sister. She was the first like meaningful person that I told. And my sister is an amazing human being, and she basically made a list of everybody that we knew jointly, and she was like, you tell me who you want me to tell, and I'll tell them, and then you don't have to come out to them, and they'll know, and it'll just be like it's always been. And it was great.
That's the sweetest thing I've ever heard. And I've heard a lot of coming out stories. That's so cute. I wish my sister said that.
It was a really easy transition for me because of Sarah.
That's so nice. Family's the best. I think people always are shocked that I came out to my family first, because that for some reason is sometimes like a backwards thinking thing. Like I think most young people think their friends are more like open-minded than their older parents, and I had the complete opposite situation because my parents are both from Pennsylvania, and my sister is just like the most like liberal little person, and like she's 5 years older than me, so she had already like gone to UT, and like she's like this gay friend and this gay friend, and I was like, okay, she won't give a fuck. But and then my parents not being from Texas and not being like this super conservative, very religious situation that was everyone else that was my friend, I was way less scared to tell them than I was to my like friends who were my own age, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah.
I've like so many drinks going over here.
I have noticed there's been like a new one each time, which is fun.
Oh yeah. And I haven't even drank my coffee yet because I'm scared I'll get too hyper.
Yeah, I was similar for different reasons, but I told my parents first. I think my like biggest fear was them finding out without it being intentional. And I didn't think that any of my friends would like tell them, but like they lived close, like DC's so small. I don't know. I just like felt like there was some chance that it would like get back to them before I was able to. So I had like decided that I wanted to tell them first. And they knew for about, I don't know, maybe 45 minutes before I had told like 30 other people. It was like, okay, they know, on to everybody else that I could tell.
That's amazing.
Well, I don't know about that, but it was the approach I took. So going back a little bit to creating queer content for the internet, a lot of your content early on was like very personal, and it still is about like your relationships or like about being queer or very personal stuff. How have you like found balance in that and like feeling like you have some autonomy over, your own life as well as sharing it with people in a way that feels authentic?
I feel like I'm one of those people, you see jokes where they're like, oh, me after one beer telling someone my whole life story. I feel like that's very me in a lot of ways. So like I don't have a lot of like barriers between myself and people who follow me online. And I think that I've done that too in a way where I've kept it really siloed, kind of like what you're saying, into just like my queerness, a little bit of mental health, but even with my mental health stuff that I've shared really openly, it's kind of connected to my queerness. Like I'm very open about the fact that I had like suicidal thoughts when I was like dealing with my sexuality. So I've kept it all. I'm very open, but it's very like about that. And then I was super open with my first relationship. And then I think that was so, I wouldn't say that I'm traumatized by the aftermath of it, but I learned from mistakes that I made. It's not like I'm like, oh my God, like I'm an idiot. And like, I wish I never, like, I have regrets for sure, but more like I'm going to learn from that relationship and take it into my next one. And then I think with my first relationship, I was so open that then in my second relationship, I was like so close. Like I just was like, I'm not even telling anyone I have a girlfriend. Like you guys can all assume that this person that I'm with most of the time is my girlfriend, but I'm never going to say it. I never ever said it one time until I think we broke up. And then it was like, you guys were right. And we're not together anymore, which was crazy also. So I think what I did was I overcorrected in the second relationship, and now I'm in a relationship again, and I'm trying a third technique, which is like a blend. I think all of the sharing online stuff is just like, it's like a learning curve. No one knows. No one knows even still like what the aftermath of like all of this could be for everyone, like how sharing yourself like that could affect you. So I think I try not to like get too worried about it and like stressed over it, but yeah, I think that I don't know. I'm working on a podcast with my sister, and I'm hoping that will be the first time that I'm able to like kind of talk more freely about a lot of stuff, just because I did create such a siloed thing on like YouTube that like I kind of felt like I couldn't even like step outside of that and like talk about the other things I really like think about, you know, like I've not really broached a lot of like subjects with my followers outside of like my queerness, which I'm excited to, because I'm like, I grew up with them, like I came out with them, and now we're like grown-ups or more grown-up. And like I want them to know that I'm a fully actualized human being, and I'm not just like Shannon, the lesbian YouTuber who went to Oklahoma and came out of the closet. Like I'm way more than that. So I'm excited to share. If anything, like I'm excited to be even more open than I've ever been. And I just hope that I'll be okay in the end. We'll see.
You will be. So a lot more people are putting their relationships or their queerness on the internet now. As someone who has maybe been doing this longer than most, what advice would you have for people that are like, you know, like kind of telling their whole story of their relationship on TikTok or Instagram or anything right now?
I would say it's so powerful, and I think there's so much value in it, and like more power to you if you are open and willing to do it. But also just to be conscious of the fact that people are investing themselves into your life in a way that you're not personally investing yourself into their life, like, and so they feel connected to you and they will feel entitled to you, and rightfully or wrongfully so, I don't know. Like I think personally, I think that that's wrong, but it's hard not to. And I think it's especially hard in the queer community, because we have so little representation that when you get any, it's like it's a crumb, and people are like, I'm going to consume this like wholeheartedly. So I think, I mean, I don't want to tell someone like, I don't want to be someone who's like, be scared, because I don't think you need to be scared. Like, but I just think you need to be conscious of it. Like, just know that it exists. Like, know that if you are in a relationship and you make it very public and you talk publicly about details of that relationship, if it doesn't work out, and even if it does work out, people will still have opinions of your relationship all the time. And I think people know that now. And I think most people who are sharing their relationships online are like aware. We've all seen a breakup video. Like we know that that is a possibility. So if you're doing it, you already kind of like, you know. I think for me, with that first relationship, like I said, I definitely have regrets. And like, I think it would have worked out the same way, regardless if it had been public or not public, because we were really young and I had never been out of the closet. Like, so I think it was kind of like an inevitable breakup that was going to happen. I guess I wish I had been a little more precious about precious things, and like kept a little more that felt like private to us. But I just didn't know better, honestly. I like attribute it to youthfulness and just being like, I'm going to marry this girl. It doesn't matter. I can see everything because this is the love of my life. But yeah, I think just being aware that people will care. I felt my first breakup was like horrible, but I also felt like I broke up with 500,000 people, and that was really a bizarre feeling for a 20. I don't even know how old I was. 24-year-old. Yeah.
I can't even imagine. No.
No. I was reading an article recently about, because there have traditionally been so few queer celebrities, especially like in the millennial generation, people that I think are in your position who are, you know, popular on the internet and also queer, have had to experience the same level of like, not scrutiny, but like, I don't know,
like
intensity as like a celebrity fandom, as like a celebrity who is like on, you know, Jennifer Aniston or whatever, but you don't have the same, like, you haven't made the same choices of like, I'm going to be a A-list red carpet TV show actor or musician or whatever. And so it's sort of this interesting like enigma that has happened specifically within the queer community, because we don't have that representation in the like A-list celebrity world. So we have kind of treated our queer like content creators and people that we like feel that sort of relationship and connection to in that same way. So I thought it was pretty interesting.
That checks out. I think the cool thing and the great thing for me, like, it's interesting because I grew up in Carrollton, right? So like my friends, they have like normal like 9-to-5 jobs, like, and they're all brilliant and amazing and like own homes, and I can't say any of that for myself. Well, maybe I'm not stupid, but not brilliant. But like I'll go home and they'll be like, well, you're famous. And I'm like, but I'm not famous. Like, I'm not famous, even a little bit famous. Like, it's a very interesting thing to be a content creator with followers, because I can do everything. I can go to the grocery store, I can go to a movie. Like, no one recognizes me unless it's a little, like a queer person. Little, I don't know why I said little, but a queer person. And so like my day-to-day life is not any different. So if I just log off, it can kind of feel like that doesn't exist. You know what I mean? Like the intensity of people, like even with that first relationship, and people being like, oh my gosh, like how could this happen? And like commenting and DMing me and tweeting at me and commenting on my YouTube videos and sending me Tumblr asks. And I'm like, I literally just have to do this. Sorry for the crotch shot there, but you know what I mean? You can like, and it's, you have the ability to just put it away.
Yeah.
And I think it's hard. Like that's like making something so black and white that's not that black and white. Obviously it's in your head and you are self-conscious about what you post, and like it affects you deeper than that. But like, you're not an A-list celebrity in that I can go anywhere and do anything, and like if I don't choose to think about it, it's not there, which is really, there's so much power in that. And if you can control like your own thought process on that, it's very like helpful. So yeah, I guess my advice too to someone who like is going through like an internet situation, whether it's a breakup or some kind of controversy of any kind, like it's not really real. Like it is, and it's so intensely real. And I think for me personally, like I feel very intensely real connection to my followers, and like as far as like, you know, all the coming out stuff. But like my personal life, like my breakup, I know my life. Like I know what's really going on behind closed doors. So it's like there's so much power in that. There's so much power in knowing like what's real and not real, and just don't let yourself like get confused about what is and what isn't.
How long do you think it took you to figure that out? That you
I think I knew it the whole time, because I think because of that, what we were talking about before too, that Hannah Montana thing. Like I was always Shannon. Like I was always so far removed from that part of myself. Like it was so compartmentalized for me that it was like, when I am not online, like if I am in real life, like no one treats me like, no one is like, oh my God, Shannon. Like, so I don't feel like, oh my God, Shannon. You know what I mean? Like, it's always been like that for me. Even with that breakup, I am honestly impressed with myself with the way that I was able to just be like, sorry, like you guys can be heartbroken and I feel you. I'm heartbroken, but I don't feel worse for you than I feel for myself. So I was able to like just be like, at the end of the day, if I had logged off after that breakup and never logged back on, today, right now, people might be like, oh my God, remember like that couple on YouTube and they dated and they broke up? Like, and the other person might be like, yeah, that was so sad. And that's, no one cares really. Like they do, but they don't. It's not real. It's, that part is not real, you know? That like, I don't know how to explain it, but to me, I think I was always able to just be like, I know who I am, and like, it's not Shannon who dated so-and-so.
I mean, I think people treat it like they would with like a couple they might see on a TV show, but then you have to realize that those people are real people and not written and imaginary. And I think that's the struggle of, the internet right now and kind of being real and open is people don't always make that connection.
But if you can do it, then you're fine.
On a brighter note, the title of this episode will be Shannon Beveridge is Lesbian YouTube's Hannah Montana. Like that's definitely.
I will take it.
Well, last question. How are you a happy queer adult?
I am a happy queer adult because I have finally merged my Hannah Montana identity into just Miley Cyrus. And I feel confident as just Shannon Beveridge. I have queer friends. I have chosen family. I have supportive outside resources to be myself. And yeah, I don't know. I finally feel settled in myself, and like I feel like a queer adult, whereas I felt like a queer adolescent for so long. Like I was stuck in that, like it's basically like you feel like you're stuck as like an 18, 19-year-old for like longer than an 18 or 19-year-old because you didn't get to experience a queer adolescence or a queer high school experience. You know what I mean? So I think it took a long time for me to like get out of that feeling of just being like, I am 16 years old. Like I felt so trapped as like a little kid. And like, I just wanted to experience all the same things that my friends got to experience as a young adult. And now I feel like an actual queer adult. I'm just happy.
So life's pretty good.
It is okay. For sure. No, it's great. I can't complain. But I did say that I had when I got my therapist, we did like a 10-minute, like get to know you kind of thing. She's like, how are you? And I was like, can't complain. And she's like, I'm not usually having these calls with people and they can't complain. I was like, correct. I can complain. And that's why I would like you to be my therapist.
Where can we follow you?
You can follow me at Now This Is Living on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, and that's all. Don't have a LinkedIn, so can't find me there, but everything else, all Now This Is Living.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Happy Queer Adults.
Our music is by Kevin Burke at Kevin Burke Music, and our artwork is by Mike O'Brien at Red Table Press.
We are releasing new episodes the first Wednesday of each month.
If you have an LGBT Q&A for us, please submit them to happyqueeradults@gmail.com or send us a DM on Instagram.
You can find us at happyqueeradults.com or at happyqueeradults on Instagram and TikTok, and happyqueerpod on Twitter.
You can watch full episodes of our show on YouTube, as well as listen on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
If you liked what you heard and want more content from us, please leave a 5-star review.
Again, thank you so much for listening and have a very happy, very queer day.